Hey, welcome back to the Kimlud channel. We're excited to jump into a new topic today. In the shadow of the pyramids, a forgotten truth lies buried. Join us as we uncover the hidden African heartbeat of ancient Egypt. History is not just a record. It's a living narrative, constantly being reevaluated and reinterpreted. It's more complex with threads of fact, interpretation, and unfortunately, sometimes deliberate omission or distortion. Understanding this inherent subjectivity is crucial to unraveling the true story of any civilization. It's a story shaped by those who tell it. The lens through which we view the past profoundly influences our understanding of the present and our vision for the future. Whose voices are amplified and whose are silenced directly impacts the historical narrative that prevails. For centuries, outsiders have told Egypt's story, often with their own biases and agendas firmly in place. These accounts, while sometimes valuable, frequently overlooked or actively suppressed the crucial role of Africa in shaping Egyptian civilization. Painting it as a miraculous exception, isolated from Africa, a unique phenomenon somehow detached from its geographical and cultural context. This artificial separation served a particular purpose, one that diminished the contributions of the African continent as a whole. This narrative severed Egypt from its African roots, ignoring the undeniable geographical, cultural, and historical connections that have always existed. The mighty Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt, flows directly from the heart of Africa, a constant reminder of this inseparable link. Recasting its achievements as foreign to the continent, suggesting that the grandeur of the pyramids and the sophistication of Egyptian society were somehow imported or divinely inspired, rather than the product of African ingenuity and innovation. When European explorers arrived, they marveled at Egypt's wonders, standing in awe of the colossal structures and intricate artwork that testified to a civilization of unparalleled achievement, but couldn't accept that Africans built them. The prevailing racial biases of the time made it inconceivable that the people they considered primitive could have created such a sophisticated and advanced society. So, they invented myths, elaborate and often fantastical explanations designed to distance Egypt from its African heritage and align it with European or Middle Eastern origins. That Egyptians were a lost white race or Middle Eastern migrants, conveniently ignoring the abundant evidence of African features in ancient Egyptian art, artifacts, and even the mummified remains of pharaohs. This deception echoed through museums and textbooks, perpetuating a false narrative for generations and shaping the understanding of Egypt for countless individuals around the world, orphaning Africa from its greatest civilization, effectively denying the continent its rightful place in history and robbing it of the recognition it deserves for its contributions to human progress. Egyptology was separated from African studies, creating an artificial divide that further reinforced the notion that Egypt was somehow separate and distinct from the rest of the continent, reinforcing the myth that Egypt was not truly African. This academic segregation had profound consequences, limiting the scope of research and hindering a more holistic understanding of Egyptian history. The West admired the pyramids, flocking to Egypt to marvel at these ancient wonders and bask in the glory of a civilization they perceived as somehow separate from Africa. But not Africa itself, a paradox that distorted history, creating a skewed perception of the continent and its contributions to the world. This selective admiration perpetuated harmful stereotypes and reinforced the false narrative of African inferiority. Today, a new generation of scholars, armed with new tools and a commitment to intellectual honesty, is challenging this colonial fiction, dismantling the long-held biases and revealing the truth about Egypt's African identity. They're using genetics, linguistics, and archaeology, employing cutting-edge scientific methods to uncover the evidence that has been ignored or suppressed for far too long. To restore Egypt's place in Africa's story, reclaiming its rightful heritage and celebrating its contributions to the continent and the world. The evidence is clear. The genetic, linguistic, and archaeological data all point to a strong and undeniable connection between Egypt and the rest of Africa. Black Africans are not just present in Egypt's history, They weren't merely visitors or traders. They are its foundation. They were the builders, the artists, the rulers, and the innovators who shaped Egyptian civilization. This is more than an academic debate. It's not just about correcting the historical record for the sake of accuracy. It's a quest to reclaim a stolen heritage, to restore dignity and pride to a continent that has been systematically marginalized and misrepresented. Restoring Egypt's African identity is a crucial step towards healing the wounds of colonialism and dismantling the racist ideologies that have plagued our world for centuries. It is about understanding the deep connections that bind the continent, recognizing the shared history, culture, and destiny of all African people. The truth is not just overdue, it's a moral imperative, a necessary step towards creating a more just and equitable world. It's essential. It's essential for understanding our past, shaping our present, and building a future where all cultures and civilizations are valued and respected. To truly understand the grandeur and complexity of ancient Egypt, we must look south, beyond its familiar borders. We need to trace the lifeblood of the Nile upstream, following its course into the heart of Africa. Journey up the Nile to Nubia, often referred to as the Land of the Bow, a region of immense historical significance that played a pivotal role in shaping Egyptian civilization. This is a land of ancient wonders waiting to be rediscovered. Nubia wasn't merely a neighbor, it was Egypt's twin, its rival in power and influence, and at times, even its master. The relationship between these two ancient civilizations was complex and dynamic, marked by both conflict and collaboration. Powerful kingdoms like Kush rose in Nubia, mirroring Egyptian ambition by building their own majestic pyramids and elaborate temples, testaments to their advanced civilization and unique cultural identity. These structures stand as enduring symbols of Nubian power and ingenuity. The cultural exchange between Nubia and Egypt was profound. The two cultures shared gods, artistic styles, and royal traditions, blurring the lines between them and creating a unique tapestry of shared heritage. Religious beliefs and artistic motifs flowed freely between the two lands. At one point in history, Nubian pharaohs rose to rule all of Egypt, ushering in a period of restoration and reaffirmation of ancient Egyptian values, demonstrating the enduring strength and influence of Nubian culture. They sought to revive the traditions of the past. The border between Egypt and Nubia was never a fixed line, but rather a fluid zone of interaction and exchange, constantly shifting with the tides of power and influence. Cultural and economic influence flowed freely in both directions, enriching both societies and shaping their destinies. The Nile served as a conduit for this constant exchange. Further south, beyond Nubia, lay the legendary land of Punt. This corresponds to modern-day Ethiopia and Eritrea, a land of immense riches, exotic goods, and profound spiritual significance for the ancient Egyptians. It was a source of wonder and fascination. Egyptian expeditions to Punt were far more than mere trade missions. They were sacred journeys undertaken to obtain precious resources and connect with the divine. These voyages held deep religious and cultural importance. The spiritual and cultural influence emanating from Nubia and Ethiopia profoundly shaped Egypt's cosmology, its religious beliefs, and its very sense of identity. These connections are undeniable. The ancient Egyptians were, without a doubt, indigenous Africans, deeply rooted in the continent's rich history and cultural heritage. Their art, meticulously preserved over millennia, depicts a diverse spectrum of skin tones, reflecting the true nature of their society. This is evident in countless tomb paintings and sculptures. Any attempt to portray them otherwise, to erase their African identity, is a modern myth, a distortion of historical truth that must be challenged. Recognizing the profound influence of Nubia and Ethiopia is essential to understanding Egypt's true origins and its place within the broader African context. It reveals Egypt as a vital part of Africa's crossroads of genius, a place where cultures converged, ideas flourished, and civilizations reached unprecedented heights. Egypt's removal from Africa's story began with European colonialism. Colonial powers needed to justify their dominance, so they claimed Africa had no history. Egypt's achievements contradicted this, so scholars de-Africanized it, searching for non-African features and downplaying Southern connections. They classified Egyptians as Caucasian, making Egypt's legacy part of the West, not Africa. This narrative created a hierarchy, placing Egypt at the top only by detaching it from Africa. Even in Egypt, this idea took hold, embraced by elites who looked north and east, not south. Museums and universities physically separated Egypt from Africa, reinforcing the myth. The message, Egypt is not Africa. This wall of prejudice still stands, denying Africa its greatest chapter. Dismantling it means confronting uncomfortable truths and reclaiming the real story. Egypt, a land of pharaohs and pyramids, owes its very existence to a single, mighty river. But the Nile's true lifeblood, the source of its power and abundance, flows from the highlands of Ethiopia, a land of rugged mountains and ancient secrets. The river's annual flood, a predictable and life-giving event, was vital to the flourishing of Egypt's civilization, nourishing its fields and sustaining its people. This yearly inundation was the heartbeat of ancient Egypt. This incredible phenomenon is powered mostly by the Blue Nile, a powerful tributary that surges with life. The Blue Nile swells dramatically during the rainy season in the Ethiopian highlands, transforming from a gentle stream into a raging torrent. 80% of the Nile's water, the very essence of its being, originates in Ethiopia, coursing through its valleys and carving its way across the landscape. For millennia, Egypt's fate, its prosperity and survival, has always depended on the unpredictable rainfall patterns in this distant, mountainous land. The rains in Ethiopia dictate the flow of life in Egypt. Ancient Egyptians, astute observers of their environment, deeply understood this fundamental dependency on the Ethiopian rains. They knew their lives were intertwined with a land far to the south. This awareness created a sense of vulnerability, a constant understanding that their well-being was not entirely within their own control. They were at the mercy of the rains and the river's flow. The very river that gave them life, that sustained their civilization, could, in theory, be controlled at its source, far upstream in the Ethiopian highlands. This possibility fostered a constant anxiety, a nagging fear that the life-giving waters could be withheld, leading to famine and societal collapse. Today, this ancient fear, once a whisper in the halls of pharaohs, has unfortunately become a stark and pressing modern crisis. The Nile, once a symbol of unity and prosperity, is now increasingly viewed as a weapon, a tool in a high-stakes game. It's become a central element in a complex struggle for water resources, for economic development, and ultimately for regional power. Egypt, understandably, seeks to maintain its historical control over the Nile's flow, safeguarding its water security for future generations. Meanwhile, Ethiopia, equally determined, seeks to utilize its own abundant water resource for its own development, to lift its people out of poverty and build a brighter future. The very river that once united these two great civilizations, fostering trade, cultural exchange, and mutual prosperity, now, tragically, threatens to divide them, casting a shadow of uncertainty over their shared future. The stakes in this complex and delicate situation have simply never been higher, demanding careful diplomacy and a commitment to finding equitable solutions. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, is the flashpoint of the modern Nile dispute. Built by Ethiopians, GERD is Africa's largest hydroelectric project and a symbol of independence. For Egypt, the dam threatens its water supply and national security. Colonial-era treaties gave Egypt near-total control, ignoring Ethiopia's rights. Tensions have escalated, with threats and international interventions. Ethiopia began filling the dam, asserting its sovereignty. Egypt protested, fearing disaster. Negotiations have stalled, leaving a geopolitical stalemate. GERD is more than a dam. It's Ethiopia's declaration that the era of Egyptian dominance is over. The Nile's future now hangs in the balance. The world is watching. In Upper Egypt, the Nubian people are a living link to the Nile's African roots. Their culture, language, and identity connect Egypt to Sudan and beyond. The Aswan High Dam, built in the 1960s, submerged Nubian homelands, displacing over 100,000 people. Nubians lost their land, heritage, and connection to the river. Their voices challenged the official narrative, highlighting the cost of Egypt's quest for control. Many Nubians empathize with Ethiopia's struggle, having seen their own sacrifices for Egypt's dams. Their story is a call for justice for all Nile peoples. The Nile struggle isn't just about water, it's also about faith. For centuries, the Ethiopian church was led by an Egyptian Copt, giving Egypt religious influence over Ethiopia. Religious customs, like frequent holidays, limited Ethiopian agricultural productivity, possibly preserving Nile flow for Egypt. This dynamic shows how religion shaped geopolitics along the river. Ethiopian emperors even threatened to divert the Nile in response to religious persecution. The river became a tool in a centuries-old power play between Christian nations. The fight for the Nile is as much about faith and influence as it is about water. Ethiopia, source of most Nile water, remains one of the world's poorest in access to water and electricity. Millions watch their river flow away while living in darkness and poverty. The Gird is not just a symbol, it's a hope for a better life. Ethiopia's argument is moral equitable. Sharing of the Nile is a matter of justice and development. The dam could benefit Sudan and Egypt by regulating floods and droughts. The world must see beyond conflict and recognize the human need at the river's source. The old narrative of exclusive Egyptian rights perpetuates injustice. A just solution must include those who live at the source. The Nile's story is one of two erasures: Egypt's African identity and Ethiopia's right to its own water. Both stem from the same colonial mindset. Reclaiming the truth means restoring Egypt to Africa and recognizing Ethiopia's rights. This isn't about diminishing Egypt, but enriching our shared history. The Nile must be managed through equity and cooperation, not outdated treaties. Solidarity means listening to Nubians and Ethiopians whose lives are shaped by the river. Their stories reveal the human cost of power struggles. The Nile should unite, not divide, a symbol of our shared destiny. As the Nile continues its journey, so does our quest for truth and justice. If this story moved you, let your voice ripple outward. Like, subscribe, and share this video. Each action you take helps restore the forgotten chapters of African history and amplifies the voices long silenced. Together, we can rewrite the narrative, one that honors the deep connections between Egypt, Nubia, and Ethiopia. One that values every story along the riverbanks, from ancient times to today. Let's not just be witnesses to history, but architects of a future where unity and respect flow stronger than any divide. Your engagement matters. Join the movement to reclaim Africa's legacy, because the Nile's story is our story, and its future is in our hands. Remember, when we lift each other up, the river of truth runs free. Thanks for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit subscribe and be part of our growing community. Your voice keeps our current flowing strong. As the sun sets over the timeless Nile, we reflect on the journey we've shared, tracing ancient waters, lost legacies, and the resilient spirit of Africa's people. Together, we've uncovered hidden truths, honored forgotten voices, and witnessed the enduring heartbeat of a civilization shaped by both struggle and unity. Thank you for traveling this winding river with us. Your curiosity, compassion, and willingness to see the full story breathe life into the legacy we all inherit. As the river remembers every drop that has passed, may we remember the power of our shared history and the hope that flows forward with each new generation. Take a moment to reflect. What will you carry forward from this story? How will you help keep these memories alive? Until our next journey, keep the current of truth and justice flowing in your heart. Thank you for tuning in. You've been watching Kimlud Media.